A very hearty good morning to all of you. Today we are going to cover language for class 9, and the topic which we are going to cover is active and passive voice. So this is the thing which you know from the very beginning of your life. You know what is active voice, what is a passive voice. A little more details will be going on in this video. So let's have a look. First and foremost, when we talk in a language, sentence plays a very important role. When we talk about a sentence, in a sentence, verbs plays a very important role. So here, the voice of the verb matter. Now it shows whether the subject is doer of the action or the subject is receiving the action. So it can be either of the cases, either the subject can be the doer or it can be the receiver of the action. Let's have a look at the example, children. The cat chased the rat. So in this sentence, you will find that my verb is chased, my subject is cat. So when we were reading the sentence, the thing is very clear here that the cat is doing the work. The subject is the doer of the action. So in these kind of sentences, it is said to be as my active subject or the doer of the action. Suppose when I am talking, let me just consider the same sentence written in a different manner. The rat was chased by the cat. Now have a look at this sentence. What is my verb here? Was chased. What is my subject here? Rat. But is the rat chasing the cat? No, not at all. It is the receiver of the action. The rat is the receiver of the action. So that is why it is said to be as my passive subject or the receiver of the action. Clear all of you? Now we will move on. One thing children do remember that when we are talking or when we are changing from active to passive voice, my tense do not change. Okay, it remains the same when we are changing from active to passive voice. Now let me take an example for you. When we are changing from active to passive voice, if I write the sentence as the boy made a kite. Okay, so in this sentence, I hope you know what is my verb here. My verb is made here. Let me just circle it. What is my subject here? The boy is my subject and kite is my object here. So when we are changing from active to passive voice, children, do remember, I will not say that in every cases it is possible, but maximum places we will find this way of doing it. But there are exceptions in language, children, so please keep that thing in your mind. So my subject gets changed to my object. My object gets changed to my subject. So let me just write it in a very proper manner. The kite and the boy. Okay, I have made that in this manner. Now what about my verb? What changes are to be done in the verb? So my verb will be in the same tense as I told you, was. Okay, so past participle form of the verb I have to use. So for made, it is already made only. So we will be writing was made. And do remember, after that we will be using the word by. So the sentence will be in this manner, children. Have a look. The kite was made by the boy. So I hope the thing is clear. Subject gets changed to object, object gets changed to subject. My verb, the tense remains same. The verb part, we have to remember that we have to use the past participle or third form of the verb. Then only my passive voice is going to be correct. So this is just the easiest way to do. Now we will be reading about present tenses and how the changes are made depending on the tenses. Now here again, let me just write it for you, then I'll show you the table. Suppose it is my simple present tense, one sentence I'm taking, like He writes a letter. Clear? I have written a sentence which is in simple present form. He writes a letter. My teacher told me that I have to change my object to subject, subject to object, and depending on my verb, the tense will be the same, but I have to use the third form of the verb, that is the past participle form of the verb. So writes is my verb here. So what are the three forms of write here? Let me write it for you. Write, wrote, and the third one is past participle form is written. So definitely we are going to use written in these kinds of sentences. So this was in my active voice. Now I'll be changing it to passive voice. So what are the changes which I'm going to make? Have a look. I will be changing from subject to object. So as I told you, my object will become my subject. So I'll be writing a letter writes. So as I told you, present means present form only we are going to write is. Then I told third form. Third form of write, as I told you, written. So let me write it written. A letter is written. And I told you by should be used here. Since it was in the subject pronoun, the object pronoun of he is him. Clear all of you? So this is how a simple and basic concept of changing from active to passive voice takes place. Okay, one more thing let me tell you, which is generally children make mistake. Instead of a single one, like I'm talking about a single letter, so let me write it letters. Depending on that, my verb changes will be made. You'll be reading about the subject verb agreement. So let me tell you, so here if I change this sentence to letters, so in that manner I'll be writing letters are written by him. Okay, so that you need to keep it in your mind and do not make mistake. Do remember my subject and my verb, there should be an agreement between the two. So I have just made the things. Let me just read it out for you. Simple present tense, as I told you, he writes a letter. In the passive voice it will be a letter is written by him. For present continuous tense, he is writing a letter. So here what changes are made here? Here I'll be using being. Be very careful, here being is used. For present perfect tense, he has written a letter. A letter has been written by him. So here has been is used here. Be very careful, children. It is better you write this table in your copy and do remember the things. Present perfect continuous tense do not have a passive voice, so there will be no changes made in such kind of sentences. In the similar manner, we will be moving on with the past tense. Clear? In the past tense also, we will be making the similar changes, but here what are we going to do? Instead of is or are, we are going to use was, were, had. These kinds of things will be used in these kinds of sentences. You can take the screenshot and you can write it in your copy. Like simple past tense, he wrote a letter. For passive voice, a letter was written by him. Past continuous tense, he was writing a letter. A letter was being, as we have done in the present tense. In the similar manner, for past tense also we'll be using being here. He had written a letter had been written by him. For past perfect continuous also there is no passive voice. For future tense, children, let's have a look. For simple future tense, he will write a letter will be written by him. Future continuous tense and future perfect continuous tense do not have a passive voice. So that is why there is a cross made there in the passive voice column. For future perfect tense, he will have written a letter will have been. We are going to use been here in future perfect tense while changing from active to passive. Okay, so there were few questions given to you by me in the previous class. They grow plants. They are serving poor people. Nitesh has challenged her. I saved him. She was baking the cake. Misha had cleaned the floor, they will post the letter, they will have won the match. So based on the tenses, I have already given you 8 questions. So let us just have a look on the answers. For the first one, it will be plants are grown by them. Poor people are being served by them. She has been challenged by Nitesh. He was saved by me. The cake was being baked by her. The floor had been cleaned by Misha. The letter will be posted. The match will have been won by them. So these are the 8 questions and the 8 answers I have given. Just have a look. If you made any mistake, depending on that, give yourself marks. So I'm waiting for you. Let's move on. Now we'll be dealing with conversion from active to passive voice. So now we'll be dealing with the conversion from active to passive voice. There are cases that we need to consider when any question is given to us. Let's have a look. Suppose in a sentence there is a transitive verb and it has got 2 objects in it. Okay. So children, you can use any of the 2 objects and make that thing as a subject in the passive voice. Like I taught her cooking. So as you can see, my verb taught has got 2 objects here, her and cooking. Okay, so both the things can be used as a subject in my passive voice. She was taught cooking by me. Cooking was taught to her by me. Both the things are correct. I can tell you one more example here. He told me a story. He told me a story. A story was told to me by him. I was told a story by him. Both the ways are correct. Next point says that if you have a prepositional verb and you are changing from active to passive voice, do remember the preposition should not be dropped. You have to use the preposition there. Okay. They laughed at the poor man. They laughed at a poor man. A poor man was laughed at by them. I did not drop the preposition at from active to passive. I have used it again. Similar way, if I say he listened to me, he listened to me. In the passive voice, what it will be, children? I was listened to by him. I was listened to by him. Let's move to the third one. Suppose I'm changing the auxiliary verb from active to passive voice. Auxiliary helping verbs, like if you want to express your tense, mood or voice, that is said to be as my auxiliary word, like can. Okay, so these are auxiliary verbs. So when you're changing it from active to passive, do remember we have to use be. We have to add be with the past participle form of the verb. For example, Mona can do this sum. So yes, what it will be then? This sum can, what it was said, we have to add be here. For do, my past participle will be done. By will be added, and then my subject, which was in the active voice, will be changed to object in the passive voice. Next point says, if I am changing the imperative sentences, like suppose my sentence is in a command, request, or those kind of sentences, if we are changing from active to passive, what are we going to use? We are going to use let or be. If I want that sentence to remain imperative, or otherwise if I don't want it to be in imperative form, I can use should be also can be used in the sentences. Close the window, let the window be closed. Respect your elders should be respected. Love the animals should be loved. Suppose in a sentence if intransitive verbs are used, what are we going to do? The imperative sentences, if we're changing to passive voice, in this manner we are going to change. Do it just now. So what you are going to do, you are going to write it as you are ordered to do it justly. So do remember this, these are exceptions one, so that you need to remember. Okay, nothing else can be done. Do remember what you are going to do if such kind of sentences you are finding it in your questions. Number 6 says, suppose there is a transitive verb and it is giving a passive sense to you. It is said to be a quasi-passive voice. Then it can be changed into passive form in this manner. Sugar tastes sweet. So sugar is sweet when tasted. So in this manner you can make changes in your sentences. Okay? Quasi-passive voice. Suppose there is a continuous form. Generally, whenever there is a continuous form, we are changing it to passive continuous. It always deals with the continuity. My work is not completed yet, isn't it? It is still going on. So it deals with that. Okay, in the passive voice as well. The laborers are cutting the grass. The grass is being cut by the laborers. It is still going on. Okay, so that you need to remember. Next comes, suppose there is an interrogative sentence. What you are going to do when there is an interrogative sentences, like do, does or did, these kind of sentences are there with you. So it will be beginning with is, are, was, were, and have plus past participle form of the verb will be changed to have been plus past participle form of the verb. Like here it is given, do you stitch the shirt? So as I told you, is will be used. Is the shirt stitched by you? Okay. Did they solve the puzzle? Was the puzzle solved by them? Have they done their homework? Has the homework been done by them? Here, one thing you need to remember, my subject is sandwiched. Can you see? My subject, the shirt, is sandwiched between is and stitched. My subject, that is the puzzle, is sandwiched between was and solved. Yes, so this thing you need to remember, that interrogative sentences, my subject is in between the other forms of the verb. Okay, if I say you the sentence, who killed the snake? Who killed the snake? snake. So what are we going to write here? By whom was the snake killed? Again, was killed we have to use, but the snake was used in the middle. Now, impersonal use, as I told you while telling you the uses of passive voice while teaching you in the online classes. So, passive voice is used to offer, like, whenever we are expressing something impersonally, we don't want to take the blame, or if I don't want to tell my point of view, I'm saying, it is said that, it is hoped that, it is believed that. So, if I want to express these things not basing on my just opinion, then we are using passive voice. Okay, passive voices are used. Next comes avoiding vague words as subject. Suppose I don't know, or if the subject is not clear to me in the sentence, then passive voices are used. For example, after my lecture I was asked to explain a point. Now nobody told me who asked me. Okay, so I was asked, I don't know who was that person. I was blamed for his action. Who blamed me? I don't know. I'm not getting the answer. So, there, in order to remove, or in order to not give much importance to the subject or the doer of the action, then passive voices are generally used. It is even used with the indefinite pronoun like one. One has to sign the form, one has to complete the work on time. So at that places also passive voices are used. The form has to be signed. Third point says the passive voice is obligatory in notice. Obligatory, compulsory. Okay, so whenever you are finding any kind of notices or any kind of uh, marks or places where traffic rules, signals, and these all areas, definitely you will see passive voices are used, like entry prohibited, shoes repaired. You will find an assignment after that on page 10 and 11. You are requested to do it in the next class we will be discussing. Thank you so much for watching the video. Hope you understood everything well. Just go through the things again. If you have any doubt, you can clear your doubt from me. Thank you. Have a great day ahead.